We always hear about how attraction is predictable, right? Like
Yeah.
we all have our types.
Yeah. For sure.
But
Mm-hmm.
what if the thing that really makes us swipe right is something a little more,
Unexpected.
yeah, unexpected, something that throws us off a bit?
Totally. Like, think about it like
Okay,
that classic story of the tortoise and the hare,
that's
right?
right. Yeah.
Or those underdog victories that come out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and you're just like, how did that happen?
Exactly.
That's what we're diving into today.
So today we're looking at this
Yeah.
fascinating experiment where they used AI to try and understand attraction.
Yeah, like that messy, unfiltered
Yeah.
world of what really
Yeah, what draws us to each other.
draws us in. Yeah.
So, yeah,
So
go
this was,
ahead.
oh yeah, so this study basically simulated the whole dating app experience,
Uh-huh.
but with 400 virtual people.
Okay.
And they were diverse.
Yeah.
Different backgrounds,
Yeah.
different simulated races, and
Okay.
all that. And what's super interesting for you listening is that this experiment went beyond just what people say they want
Okay.
and got down to like the nitty-gritty of what actually made them swipe right.
Oh, so like
Love
based purely on those profiles.
Just the profile.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So today we're on a mission to uncover some of these surprising factors that shape attraction. And, we might even bump into some potentially uncomfortable truths
Yeah, for sure.
about
some simulated racial patterns that emerged.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
But the good news
this
is,
is where it gets really useful, right?
yes.
We're going to break down some practical strategies for standing out on these apps.
Yeah.
Even if you don't fit someone's preconceived idea of the perfect type.
Exactly. And this whole deep dive was sparked by
Yeah, all those
Reddit threads you see where people are like desperate for dating profile advice.
Totally.
But instead of just relying on random opinions from the internet.
We're taking this data-driven approach.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit.
Let's do it.
Let's start with those,
Those simulated racial preferences.
yeah, what do they find?
So it's fascinating, right? Because the AI, it analyzed tons of data
Uh-huh.
and ended up mirroring some pretty clear patterns in attraction.
Okay.
And when these virtual women were shown all these different profiles,
Yeah.
the results weren't always what you might expect.
Oh, so let's hear about it. Like, who was catching their eye
Yeah.
in this virtual world?
Okay, so let's start with the white women
Okay.
in the simulation.
Yeah.
Their preference was actually quite something.
Really? Okay, so spill the tea.
So the simulation showed a pretty high preference among white women
Yeah.
for black men.
Oh, wow.
Which was interesting. And one of the virtual women, she put it this way.
Okay.
She said, I'd probably swipe right on the black man. There's a certain allure to the unexpected with a profile that doesn't fit the everyday mold.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it really challenges the idea of types, Like sometimes it's that unexpected profile that really grabs your attention.
Breaks the mold a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really interesting. So what about the black women in the simulation?
Okay, so with the black women,
Yeah.
there was a strong preference for black men.
Okay.
And the reasons they gave often focused on this idea of shared understanding, a sense of community, and this connection to their shared history and resilience.
Yeah.
One of them actually said, I really value the shared understanding that comes with dating someone from my own community. It just feels more authentic.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily about excluding anyone else,
Okay.
but more about that deep connection
Right. Yeah.
you get from shared experience.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on then, what about the Latino women? What did the simulation show about their preferences?
Right. So the Latino women showed a big preference for Latino men.
Okay.
And the main reason seemed to be shared family values
Yep.
and cultural experiences. One virtual woman, she said, I'm drawn to Latino men because there's something about shared family values and cultural experiences that makes the connection feel natural and real.
Yeah. It's like a celebration of your heritage in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then last but not least, what about the Asian women in this virtual dating world?
So their preferences were a bit more
Okay.
nuanced.
Okay.
While a lot of them did express a comfort and connection with Asian men, there was also a good amount of openness to profiles from other backgrounds, too.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and one just simply said, I try to be open-minded.
Okay, so that contrasts a bit with like the Black and Latino women's preferences.
Right, exactly. Was it?
Little less pronounced, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and we should remember, these simulated preferences.
Yeah.
they're a reflection of that huge data set the AI was trained on.
Yeah.
So it's like a digital snapshot of all these online interactions. So even though it's a simulation...
It's probably reflecting stuff that's actually happening out there.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, so now let's get to the juicy stuff. Like, let's say you're attracted to someone.
Yeah.
But you don't really fit what their simulated preferences might say is their type, right?
Yeah, like what do you do then?
What can you do to stand out?
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
And potentially useful for you.
All right, I'm all ears.
Okay, so the virtual women actually gave some super specific insights into what would make someone swipe right.
Okay, let's start with the white women.
Okay, so for the white women in the simulation,
Yeah.
unexpectedness and humor seem to be the winning combo.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Yeah, like one virtual woman named Amber.
Okay.
She specifically mentioned a profile picture.
Okay.
Where the guy was dressed in full medieval knight armor, but doing a yoga pose, or holding a giant rubber chicken while rock climbing.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And she said it gave her this impression of, I'm not taking this seriously, but I'm also weirdly impressive.
Right.
And the researchers actually tested this with what they call deep-faked photos.
Oh, so like using AI to change pictures.
Exactly. And they got a 77% match rate with the chicken suit.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, a Knight and Warrior 2 pose. I would definitely stop scrolling for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about black women then? What kind of profiles really stood out to them?
So for them, authenticity and community engagement were key.
Okay.
They weren't really into posed or superficial photos.
Okay.
But more into genuine glimpses into someone's life, especially if it involved giving back to the community.
Right, right.
Yeah. And one of them, Aaliyah, she said she would totally swipe right on a photo of him actually volunteering, not some pose, look how good I am shot, but a genuine one where he's clearly working with the community.
Okay, so it's less about like the perfect selfie. And more about showing what you're passionate about.
Exactly. Like what you actually do.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Substance over surface. I get it. Okay. So what about Latina women? What could someone do to really catch their eye?
So with them, humor that was self-aware and connected to their culture seemed to work really well.
Okay.
Like one suggestion was a profile that said, we'll solve your emotional baggage faster than I solve community problems.
Oh, I like that.
And another playful one was, we'll cook you authentic arroz con pollo better than your abuela.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And they even tried a grandma shot. Which got mixed results. But then the simulation stopped that whole line of testing when it touched on virtual infidelity.
Oh, wow. So even the virtual people have their limits.
Apparently so, yeah.
That's hilarious. Okay, so the takeaway here is not just being funny, but being like self-aware, intelligent, and maybe even sharing a bit of that cultural understanding.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, so last but not least, the Asian women. What caught their attention?
This one was a bit more all over the place. Like one said just putting 6'1" was enough.
Okay, straight to the point.
Yeah, and another preferred a little bit of that unpredictable vibe. Like Jin, her comment was, I can fold an origami crane faster than you can count my red flags.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
That's good.
It shows you're self-aware, but also a bit mysterious.
Yeah, I like that. So the big theme here seems to be ditching the generic profiles that everyone else has. It's about being yourself. Right? Even if you're a little quirky.
Absolutely. Like the simulation really showed that ditching those rehearsed cliches and boring photos and going for something that truly reflects who you are, even the weird stuff, that's what really connects with people.
Exactly.
And one woman just put it straight, I'm not here to be boring.
Perfect. Okay, so this experiment took a bit of a wild turn, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
You mentioned a test where they basically signaled, don't date this person.
Yeah, they did.
Tell me about that.
Okay, so they wanted to see how much a profile could actually communicate, right? So they made this intentionally awful profile with a stained Hawaiian shirt and eviction notice right there in the picture.
Oh, no.
A cigar and a caption that said he was looking for a sugar mama.
Oh, my God.
To pay for his whiskey and video game habit.
That's terrible.
I know, right? And the goal was to see if anyone would still swipe right.
Okay.
And more importantly, why?
Right, okay.
And it's something interesting was that the virtual Asian women, their responses initially didn't have any context about the sign literally saying, do not date this man.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing the other women in the simulation were not so into this walking red flag.
Oh, they were not.
Okay.
Like Amanda, she just said, the sign says eviction and he's unemployed. Not exactly a power move.
Right.
And Priya was worried about what her family would think. She said, "My mom would faint just from that cigar alone."
Oh, God.
Jasoo made a funny comment. She said this guy couldn't hold a Zoom call without tequila in the background. And Lynn just summed it up with the shirt, the cigar, the caption, "It's giving frat boy burnout."
Okay, so pretty much a unanimous no.
Pretty much, yeah.
But there was one woman who saw something past all those red flags.
There was, yeah. Amidst all the negativity, she just said, "He's probably a hot mess, but he looks like a story."
That's amazing.
Yeah. It shows you that attraction can be so subjective.
Right.
And sometimes it's based on things we can't even explain.
Right, yeah. So, okay, let's say you get that initial match.
Yeah.
Now you have to send that first message.
Right.
And we all know, hey, he's not going to cut it.
No way.
So what kind of opening lines actually worked?
So those generic greetings, they just don't work.
Yep.
The simulation really highlighted that you need opening lines with personality,
Yeah.
wit, and originality.
Okay, so let's start with the white women who matched with Latino men.
All right, so with them,
Yep.
charm with a little cultural reference worked really well.
Okay, like what?
Like, do you believe in love at first salsa, or should we dance again?
Oh, I love that.
Or a simple, hola hermosa, let's talk about it.
Okay, so like lighthearted flirtation, but with a cultural twist.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. What about black women getting messages from white men?
Okay, so for them, it was all about cultural awareness and a little bit of playful sass.
Okay.
One that worked really well was, I heard social workers have the best bullshit detectors in the world, want to test that theory over coffee.
Oh, I like that.
And it worked because the virtual woman was a social worker,
Okay,
so it showed he actually looked at her profile.
smart. Shows you're paying attention. Okay, so switching gears. How could Asian men start a conversation with Latina women?
So the biggest thing here was to avoid stereotypes.
Okay, right.
Yeah, like one virtual Latina woman, Isabella, she said the whole spicy Latina thing made her want to scream.
Yeah, I can see why.
And Natalia said to never, ever use me love you long time jokes.
Oh, God, no.
But the winning line was, hey, my mom wanted me to be a doctor, but I chose art instead. Want to disappoint our parents together over coffee.
I love that.
It's relatable and it opens up a conversation.
Right.
About shared experiences.
Yeah, about those universal struggles with parents.
Exactly.
Okay, and lastly, what about opening lines when the match was also Asian?
So one suggestion was, I promise I'm not here to be your token diversity friend. Open to sharing stories about growing up with an immigrant mom who thought every illness could be cured with ginger tea.
Okay.
Which actually got 40% positive responses.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But it was just beaten out by a twist on that disappointing parents theme,
Yeah.
which was, let's disappoint our parents over margaritas.
Oh, I love that.
And that got 56%.
Okay, so ditch the predictable.
Yeah.
Show some personality and try to connect on a deeper level.
Exactly. Like maybe even with a little humor.
Right, and make it relatable.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so to wrap it all up, what's the most important thing our listeners should take away from this whole simulated world of attraction?
The biggest thing is to be yourself, even online.
Yeah.
Forget those boring profiles and those tired opening lines.
Right.
This whole experiment showed that being unique and showing your personality, even those little quirks, that's what really catches people's attention.
And creates those genuine connections.
Exactly.
So to leave you with a final thought, the world of online dating is always changing.
Yeah.
But even with all these algorithms and trends, real connection happens when you're authentically you.
Yeah.
So be brave, be yourself, and you never know what might happen.
Exactly.
Maybe even try bouncing some of these ideas off your friends.
Yeah.
Experiment with your profile, see what sparks fly.
For sure. Have fun with it.
Right.
Welcome to Rally, your virtual audience simulator. Rally lets you ask almost any question to entire crowds of role-playing agents, each with their own unique background context. When you prompt in Rally, your questions get answered by all of the agents within your audience at the same time. The responses are then synthesized into a helpful summary, but you can drill in to the individual responses from your personas, copy them, or you can export the entire chat to a CSV. Each session is saved, so you can return to it later and continue the thread, and the personas maintain memory within each session. This means you can ask follow-up questions, such as get an opinion scale, or even ask what these personas would need to change a prior vote. You can even ask them to give feedback on something visual like an image. The personas cannot see each other's responses, and it's by that way we avoid groupthink. And to reset memory, you just need to start a fresh session. Designing your own audience is as straightforward as adding a description and clicking generate. You can generate more than one persona at a time, tweak the audience description to align your virtual audience characteristics with that of a real audience, edit your personas, or clone via text. This lets you create audiences quickly based on text from LinkedIn profiles, autobiographies, script comment threads, reviews, transcripts. Anything that you can get into text can theoretically be used to generate personas. You can also download our CSV template and use our bulk import method, which also supports cloning. And then once you save your audience, it will be available in your hub where you can either ask questions or export so that you can import it into the account of another user that you're supporting. With that said, give us a try today and let us know what you think. Happy prompting.
Step into the simulation, a virtual audience of role-playing characters, each with a unique perspective. This is more than playful fantasy. Welcome to Rally, a private crowd feedback platform designed to offer swift, authentic insights. Within these digital personas, you can pose nearly any question. Is your marketing pitch resonating? Does your design spark delight? Here you receive direct, honest feedback, free of the echo chamber and groupthink often found elsewhere. Marketers validate campaigns before launch. Innovators refine product concepts. Entrepreneurs test prototypes across broad or niche specific digital audiences, all in a safe and private environment. Rally's simulated panel never tires and remains ready to guide you toward sharper, everyday decisions. By combining simplicity with insights from the crowd, Rally removes the barriers between your questions and your answers. All the wisdom, none of the scars.